मैं जानती हूँ वो अभिनय नहीं था, वो तुम्हारा प्यार था मेरे लिए। आप भगवान पे विश्वास नहीं करते, लेकिन जीवन पर तो विश्वास करते हैं। जज्बाती नहीं, सच है। हर नवाब राजा हमारे दर पर सलाम ठोकता है।
Please join us in welcoming with a warm round of applause a visionary filmmaker with gems like Udan, Lutera, Trapped, and most recently, the drama series Jubilee and Control to his credit, Mr. Vikramaditya Motwane. And now, the winner of multiple Filmfare Awards, an accomplished actress and the star of the films like 1942, A Love Story, Dil Se, Bombay, and very recently, the historical drama series Hira Mandi, Miss Manisha Koirala. May I now request Shri D. Ramakrishnan, General Manager, National Film Development Corporation, to please join us on stage to felicitate our celebrated speakers. Thank you, sir, for joining us with the felicitation. And now, over to Mr. Vikramaditya Motwane with a gracious request to commence the conversation.
So this is, it's going to be fairly informal because I don't think either of us are those. So what do you feel about this kind of stuff? When I don't think any of us are those kind of people. So, so first question, I think to you, and I think because I get asked this pretty often. Is there a real difference between when you're, yes, from a consumption perspective, of course, there's a difference, but do you feel that there's a real difference when you're actually doing the work? Is there a difference between big screen and streaming?
Vikram, no. For me, as an actor, I think, be it for the big screen, be it for web series or anything, it's the same amount of work that is needed. Sincerity needed, so preparation, mind frame, everything is the same, I think. So there's not much of a difference. Yeah.
That's also maybe because it's Mr. Bansali that you've worked with in the streaming world, where I think that it's almost like the production of Hira Mandi is, in a sense, like one of his films in that sense.
Yeah, I have to give you an example. In my 30 years of film career, Hira Mandi's set was the biggest set ever. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, that was the biggest setup that I had worked on.
No, so I'll give you my example. Like when I we did Sacred Games for the first time. That was the first Netflix series, and it was a big launch. I remember that Saif, who understood what this Netflix world meant, what the streaming world meant. I think because a lot of us had, even though we were making movies, we were watching a lot of series. We were watching a lot of things. We were watching House of Cards. We were watching Game of Thrones. We were watching Breaking Bad. A lot of these, big international series. And so I was very excited when Netflix first came. I was very excited. I was like, yeah, great. I want to make series. But I remember I went and met Saif, and he loved it. But he kept getting, like, every friend of his kept telling him, why are you doing TV? So it almost sort of like in a certain perception, it felt like it's a come down from cinema to be able to get into streaming. Did you ever sense that?
Not during Vikramaditya for sure, but there is a certain thing lurking like that. Those kind of thoughts are still very much present and facts in people's mind, even in the film industry. Maybe not so much outsider, maybe not as a consumer, but as people within the film circle, that thinking is still there, I feel, which will take time to, go.
Do you think it'll go?
When you get used to for a while, it tends to go away. After a certain generation, it becomes, right hand and a left hand, and neither of them are more important than the other.
And do you have a preference or not?
For me, none. It's a storytelling situation, and I love cinema. I love going to the theater and watching cinema. I'm a total cinema buff. I like to go to a good theater and watch the cinema and do that whole cinematic experience. At the same time, I love the thing sitting at my home and watching and streaming whatever is good content, because there's so much of good thing which is available right now. So why not to see that? Both has its importance.
There is one part of me has this, there is a massive love for cinema, like we all have. I think we love to go to the movies, love to be in an auditorium watching something in a collective, and I think that magic does not change, for sure. In my mind, there's a separate kind of magic that comes to watching a really great series, going through, especially when you're talking about multiple episodes over multiple years. I think there's a lot of, there's something to that, which is also extremely magical, but there's a longer form that one needs to invest in that to be able to have it really pay off at the end of the day, which makes it harder in a sense.
It must be harder.
Yeah, but also more satisfactory, weirdly enough. It's like, if I have to sort of like think back to all the great viewing experiences that I've had in the past few years, I think finishing a Breaking Bad or finishing a Better Call Saul or finishing a Game of Thrones has been, yeah, massively satisfying, compared to watching, yes, a great 3-hour movie and going through. But it is, I'll tell you for a fact that it's much tougher to actually achieve that than it is. I know from a creator perspective is there.
It's much tougher, you said?
It's much tougher. From a creator perspective, to be able to sustain something over multiple seasons and over multiple... would you see yourself as an actor kind of going through that, where you have to invest yourself in a single role for 10 years, 6 to 10 years, playing it day in, year in, year out?
No. 6 years seems like very long time. Yeah, but 3 years, 4 years sounds okay. But like somehow for years, it sounds unthinkable at this point of time.
If you look at Game of Thrones, all those characters were...
They did. And when you're watching as a consumer, you don't really realize that it must have taken them like so long. How long did it take them?
Well, it's 8 seasons, and I think it's about 10 years from the launch to when it actually sort of like finished.
So it's actually unthinkable when you start calculating the years it took. But when you're watching at one go, one season after, I binge watch. So it's like, it must have taken a tremendous amount of discipline and passion and dedication to, stay connected, stay true to that.
No, straight to that. And there's also the other danger that I've seen, and I'd like your opinion on this, is what tends to happen within the series world, and especially for actors, I think creators get away with it, is that your association becomes to that specific character and that specific role, and it becomes difficult for you to break out. And we've seen this time and again, not just in series, but also in the movies as well, and famously in the Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Like any of those kids today, cast them as something out of that world, and people take a bit of time to sort of like get used to that. Any of the actors who were in Friends, for example.
Right.
And I think the same thing applies to any of those Game of Thrones characters. What do you think?
Yeah, I think for an audience, it's difficult to accept them. But if the actors can break that mold and it's tough because it's very difficult to. One of the reason it reminds me, though in a much smaller scale, I didn't want to play that good-looking, pretty, only dancing and crying kind of a thing. So I tried to break that mold by, doing different kind of genres. And I didn't want to be stuck to that, so that it's difficult for my audience to accept me as something else. And I was lucky enough to get those roles. So, but I think as an actor, you would want to explore more aspects. You would want to grow as an actor. So it's important to do variety, I feel.
Do you think, and I know this has been the case a little bit, but with the streaming world has also opened up a lot of avenues for writers, for actors, for more diverse stories that are being told. Do you see it as a, and we all know this, and it's not, I mean, there's no secret about the entire fact that roles for older women are much lesser in the industry.
Yeah.
They have been for a while.
Yeah.
But do you see that changing when it comes to streaming?
Yeah, it's changing a bit. The term has been actor is the most painful, and it comes sooner to the female actresses, and you realize that you're no longer wanted or to be seen and stuff like that. So it's a painful process, and it comes early to the female. But luckily for us, I think that's slowly breaking the mold. We have Neena Gupta ji, we have so many other brilliant actors who are doing it at this age also. And thanks to the OTT platform and this thing, plus the audience also. I think even in cinema, the older actresses are doing meatier roles, and the space is there for them. So it's because the audience's mind and heart has expanded.
I agree, and I'm glad for that. I'm glad because it sort of like just makes it more I mean, we know what the cinema was like in the 90s over here. There was like, to play within that box, and 6-quadrant film. Okay, everybody, rich, poor, old, young, everybody had to come and watch the same film. I think that has become a lot more diverse, though a lot of the streamers are tending to want to get a little bit massier with because in the end of the day, it's a money game, and that's what's tending to happen. But yes, I am also sort of finding the fact that I mean, having seen you after a long time in something on screen, or Raveena, or Kajol, or so many of these actors, I think is great. I would personally be able to like to see a little bit more in terms of, and I know Sanjay did it in Vikramaditya, but I think just more in terms of pure leads.
Yeah.
Like, Mayor of Easttown, or any of these other ones where you have, Kate Winslet and all these actors, and unknown actors playing lead roles as detectives and so on and so forth.
Absolutely, that will be very, very interesting, and why not?
So how does it happen?
We have to create that. We have to make that happen.
But
See, you, Vikram, from Udaan, your first film, which I haven't seen it. I have to see it because Vardhan sitting here has said it's his favorite film till date. And to your last film, Control. So you've not stuck to any one format. You've done Trap in between. Then you did OTT with Aditi, with
Jubilee.
Jubilee. I saw that brilliant work. It's, I mean, you're not stuck to anything. You try to break the mold and you try to take a leap, and how was that for you?
Look, I enjoy it. I enjoy breaking genres and breaking that kind of stuff. And I think what did happen was making my first 4 films were all for the cinema. And I think then when Netflix came in the first time around on Sacred Games, it was kind of too good to miss up. So I made Sacred Games, and then I did this film called AK vs. AK with Anurag and Anil Kapoor, which was
So
again
unique.
but because it could only be made for some reason for the streamers.
Right.
No one, like that was not a risk that the theatrical people were willing to take on a film like that.
Right.
And I don't know whether it's right or wrong. I'm not sort of like judging. I feel that, that yes, it could have also maybe been a theatrical kind of film at that point of time. And even today, the streamers give you a little bit more freedom when it comes to the use of language.
Right.
Which didn't. Then the pandemic happened, and then everything seems to be streaming after that. So there's a sense of, that we're kind of, I love cinema world also. I would happily make a movie for the theater any day. But I think it's right now, it's, that, okay, this is something that you can make for streaming. This is something that you can make for theatrical. It's a good thing. And I think that balance is also
liberating, because you have a choice.
You have a choice. It's liberating. You can write. The wonderful part of streaming is that you're not stuck to saying. With theatrical, it's like, okay, you have to make a movie 2 to 2.5 hours. It has to be marketable. It has to be depending on budget. You can't go very high budget for a very niche audience. You have to go massier. You need to think of all those kind of things. So you're bit by bit you're getting put into a box. Whereas the great thing with streaming is that you have a story, or you have a peg, you're like, oh, this can be a movie, this can be a 10-episode, hour-long, episodes over 5 seasons. This can be 20-minute episodes, really sharp comedy over, 3 seasons. And that flexibility of format, I think, is wonderful from a writing perspective. It really is.
I have a question. Was Sacred Game your first streaming experience?
Yes.
So what was your feeling? You asked me the question as an actor, was it different? I want to ask you, as a filmmaker, as a creative, as a person behind the camera, was it different for you?
Behind the camera, when on the actual shooting, is never different. It's always the same. In fact, if anything else, it was quicker. And my learnings from Sacred Games and Jubilee have actually helped me in features, because I can shoot much quicker now, in the sense that you...
Really?
Yeah. Because we pulled off 5 pages a day. You're doing all of Jubilee, for example, which is 10 episodes, hour-long episodes, was all shot in 90 days, including 10 lip-sync songs were shot in 90 days. We shot all of Sacred Games. I think in that time it was a little bit 80 days for the first. So because you're really compressing your time, you just get more instinctive, and you get better as a filmmaker to be able to take instinctive choices and saying, yes, move on, yes, move on, yes, move on. Okay. From a writing perspective, it's very interesting though, because we were doing this for the first time. It was quite funny because Netflix said, okay, here's the book. And we took the book and we broke down the book. And they kept saying that, oh, we'll send you some showrunners and writers to help you, and you can do it. And I kept saying, yeah, I'll do it like next month. We'll do it next month or 2 months later. Mentally in my mind thinking that we have to know how to figure this out ourselves. There's no point taking help from somebody. Yeah. Let's figure this out. So we took 6 months longer than we should have, but we figured it out. We did it. We broke it down. That was a great experience, because we're taking the book, understanding how this format works, what a cliffhanger is. Why do you need a cliffhanger at the end if you want people to jump to the next episode? So a lot of watching, a lot of trial and error, but great fun. So that was, that writing process, I think, is the most different process. When you're on the shoot and post-production, it's the same.
Yeah, I think the shooting is the same, but the writing must be, so I have been really curious to know, you've choreographed dance sequence or something for Anurag, because he can't shoot song sequence, I heard. Is it true?
Yeah, well, choreographed. I directed the songs of Panch.
And then, I was thinking if there is a link between Sanjay Bansali, because Sanjay helped choreographing in 1942, and next thing he did was Khamoshi. So I was like, ye kuch connection hai
I
kya?
assisted Sanjay for 2 films.
For 2 films you assisted. Yeah. So that was the influence?
So that in a sense, so what happened was, it was actually quite fun. I assisted Sanjay on Hamdil De Chuke Sanam.
Okay.
So it was 2.5 years in New York. That time
beautiful
music. Beautiful music.
Yeah.
Lovely. I mean, as far as songs are concerned, he's just amazing.
Phenomenal, yeah.
And especially, I mean, in Hamdil, the storytelling songs that are there, there's 3 or 4 of them. You know, so studying the way he does it, studying the way he sort of like does that. So I finished that film. Anurag and me are friends, and Anurag's we actually met on Water, on Deepa Metta's films. I was her assistant as well at that time.
I've read Water's script. Yeah.
So, and then he needed somebody. He was making Panch, which was his first film. And he's like, I need someone to do I need someone to shoot my songs. And I just put my hand up, I'll do it. You know, there's that whole confidence of youth. Na ki, I've assisted Bansali, mujhe pata hai. So I put my hand up, I'll do it. And then he said, of course you'll do it. So I said, okay, fine.
How was that?
It was great. But that's how you learn. It's like, it's one of those, Panch was one of those experiences where everybody has no clue what they're doing. You're jumping in, you're making a film just really with just a lot of guts, very little money.
Sometimes that works, doesn't it? To be very organic and confident and
100%.
Not having a backup of a full form script or idea of beginning, middle and end. You just jump in with.
No, it's great. Yes, on the scale of film it depends, because if you're like that on a big massive production, I think your crew can tend to get a little bit. Okay, bhai, please bata do hum log kal kya shoot kar rahe hain. You can't organize anything, but yes, on certain productions, on certain small things, to me it's very liberating. It's very liberating to
like Trap.
Jump in. Trap was like that. Trap was actually was a 5-page script, maybe. It was a 5-page, just like beat by beat by beat. Okay, we'll do this, followed by this, followed by this, followed by this. Because there's no dialogue in the film after a certain point. And it was literally, and Rajkumar is wonderful. He's such a great actor.
He's a brilliant actor.
Yeah, so it would be him and me in the, and sitting in the location and saying, we go from here to there to there to there and do this and do that. And just performing it and doing these long, 8-minute long takes.
Wow.
Just following him and then putting it together and stuff. So that's great. That's that's not something I can apply to
bigger
Jubilee or Sacred Games or any of these larger kind of productions. I would just collapse.
So,
should we open it up?
Yeah. Actually, let's ask question and then we come back here again.
Is there a mic or are you guys going to shout?
Yeah, I think somebody needs.
Okay, first guy in the front. Closest person here. Black shirt. Shout.
Hi Vikram, I'm Manisha. My name is Tejas. I'm brought up in Nepal from Chitwan. So I have a question for both of you. So first question I'd like to ask to you. So recently we saw films like Sambhala and this Sarangi one. So when will it, how long it will take Nepalese film to be accessible in India? Like, is Nepal lacking the distribution network, or India lacking the India lacking a Nepalese audience, Nepali speaking audience?
Okay, so I don't know your perfect answer for that, but I do know there was one Nepali film. See, Shambhala is, I think, has been applauded worldwide. And I'm sure the filmmaker will try somehow, Anurag came to Kathmandu for it and Nawazuddin, and I saw the pictures and they all loved it. As far as Sarangi, which has broken all-time records in Nepal, I tried to go and see the film and I couldn't get the ticket. So I was very happy about that though. Not sure the content of that. And it all depends on the content and the style and all that, the sensibility of the audience, the people who are consuming the film, people who are seeing the It all depends on that. But there was a Nepali film which was released, which was dubbed in Hindi and other languages, and it was released here, and it was received very well here. I'm forgetting the name though.
I think Pradeep Khadkar from
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, Vikram sir, I want to ask you also a question. So it might be out of this context, but I'll ask. So recently we saw the trend of this re-releasing films and all. So is there any chance of revival of Bhavesh Joshi through re-releasing?
Why don't all of you write an email to Eros and ask them to release it? Or PVR. They listen to public.
Yeah, we want to experience it on big screen. now, that's why.
उनको tag करो, बता दो.
Thank you so much.
Hello sir, Tanish this side. My question is regarding your film Udan. So how did you come up with the character of Bhairav Singh, and what were you thinking while writing it? And also please tell how did you cast Ronit Roy as Bhairav Singh? Thank you.
So it's way out of context for this panel, but so I'll answer really quickly. But if we can just keep the questions to within this topicality. Short answer: I was actually casting somebody else. That person wanted to push the film by 1 month. I couldn't because it's a small film, and when you make small films, crew energy, cast energy, everybody's energy is the most important thing. If you've gained momentum, to stop momentum and to start momentum again is impossible. So my producer told me, let's carry on. And I literally walked up to Ronit and saying, you have to play an evil father. And Anurag and me literally kind of like hit the script over his head to make him agree. But eventually he did. That's the short answer.
Hello, Madam Manisha.
Hanji.
I am Dr. Sandeep. I am a medical profession. I have seen your performance since last 30 years, from my adolescent till the now senior citizenship. Recently, I saw your Hira Mandi, and I saw the transition from the Princess of Silver screen has not lost the charm in even the small screen or the streaming.
Thank you.
And the Hira Mandi performance, that the central character you played, it took me the entire night to see all the episodes in one single night.
You saw it one stretch?
It was so consuming that you are the acting and all. But nonetheless, as Vikram sir and you also said that the sets were so beautiful. So I thought in the back of the mind, the music was also good. It could have been made into the films, a regular film into our maybe 2 or 3 sequels like that. That was a one. This is a compliment. And Vikram sir, I'm also a fan of yours. I have seen Sacred Game and all those your streaming platforms. But one question I would like to ask, now since you have done the performance in spite of your personal problems, you have overcome that and established that you are the princess of the silver screen has not lost the metal still, and she can be still a princess or queen of this streaming platform. But having said that, 30 years long, you have played various characters.
So do you have a question, sir?
Sir, yes, characters which you have still not displayed and wanting to, you can open up to this because there are many young writers and story makers and producers here sitting in this audience. They might grab you.
There wasn't a question. But...
Hi. Just to keep the topic, the questions relevant to this topic, I have a question, sir.
Yes.
So I'm a stay-at-home mother. I'm a housewife. As a cinema lover, do you think the generation is getting a bit more lonely by watching stuff on their small screens? Like I look forward to when my husband comes home and says, "Come, let's get ready." There's an effort in taking the car, going and parking, get the ticket, having popcorn, watching that. So, as a very human perspective, do you think? How do we strike that balance? What advice would you give for the younger generation that, because not all of us have home theaters at our home, or we could have big screens, but it's not the same as taking the effort to get ready and go out. So do you think, how do we balance that? And what is that as a cinema lover, your perspective? Thank you.
It's a very, very layered question because the answer is not, it's not a simple answer. It's not as simple as you can do this, you can do that. The theatrical experience is always wonderful, but the theaters are not making it nicer for us to kind of come in and watch the movies. And I think there has to be a very concerted effort from the theaters to make movie watching a pleasant experience again. 30 minutes of ads is not pleasant, especially when you've paid the ticket price that you have. To have 30 minutes of ads, which is subsidized, that's their subsidies. That's not subsidies that apply to you. Why do I have to see 30 minutes of ads for you to make money for me to watch the movie? I don't understand that. And it's unpleasant after a point. The interval, you can have debates about the interval. I think if a filmmaker doesn't want an interval in his film, he shouldn't be forced to have an interval in his film. Again, it's unpleasant. Why are we doing it? So, yes, there has to be a certain, but yes, the cinema is also magic. We know this. That's why we go to the theaters to watch movies. That's why movies will always work, because we want to go and so do it. As far as Lonely is concerned, I mean, yes, there is. If we're going to wake up every morning and put on Instagram and check reels is the first thing, then obviously then there is something. But that is, again, it's a much deeper problem in, I think, our consumption patterns and our relationship with capitalism over there. So I think that's a much deeper kind of thing. It's fab that we have every kind of thing available to us. I just think that we need to be able to know when to watch what. And yes, but I do believe that if the theater going experience was more pleasant, we would go more often. And we, as in the general public, the kind of people who go and watch 3 to 4 movies a year, not like me who's watching 100 movies a year. I think there's a difference there. I don't know answer the question.
I also want to add on to it. Like me and my mom, we watch Netflix or the streaming things together, and we decide what is mom likes or what I like, kind of, and it's our time together. So there is some sort of a bonding also. It's not singularly I'm watching, and it can be a family time. It can be you can turn that around.
Funnily enough, it's really funny. So me and my wife we have completely different viewing habits. So
My father
that's
has
part of the entire thing. It's totally different. Like we don't watch the same thing at all. The shows I watch, she doesn't. Once in a while, there'll be like appointment viewing, and Game of Thrones and House of Dragon is actually that. When the new season comes, like you can't watch it without me. I can't watch it without you.
Yeah.
But it's very rare. It's like 1 or 2 things will be like that. Otherwise, it's completely.
Yeah, but it's like that 1 or 2 thing also is nice, no? So
It is.
yeah.
Hello.
I cherish my time watching streaming thing with my mom. So
Yeah. Someone doesn't like that.
Hello, Vikram sir. Hello, Manisha. My question for you, sir, Vikram sir. Sir, there are many bunch of popular actors who still feel OTT is like a smaller screen, and they say that they are of a bade parde ka actor and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, OTT is much more there to be explored. Like you are more into the character or story, and it is for everyone, for actor as well as writer, for as well as director, to explore more of the content. And when we look at the movies and OTTs, still OTTs are as well as commercially viable, as well as they can do deeper content as well. So why there is still hesitation of the actors to come down to OTT and where they can explore more of the story and their art?
Yeah, broadly speaking, first of all, in India, I think art is a little fluid as far as the term is concerned. So it's not, for example, if you take Hiramandi as a prime example of if you look at the quality of actors, or the quality of stars in a Hiramandi, you've already seen the fact that there is a willingness for actors to be able to be a part. And there's been lots of conversations with lots of stars about what is the right subject matter for them to make their presence on OTT felt. I think it's a matter of time before you've seen it in the West as well. You'll start to see it over here as well. Alia Bhatt's had a straight to streaming film, which has come out. Shahid Kapoor has been in a straight to streaming series. Varun Dhawan has now been in a straight to streaming series. It's a matter of time. I think that whole perception of what it is for a bade parde ka, chote parde ka, I think all that is going bit by bit. See, broadly speaking, and so again, very broadly speaking, if you look at from a pure writing and a watching perspective, movies are stories. You go to watch a story in a film. Yes, you always love the character, but you're going to watch ek kahani. Whereas in the streaming world, you're going to connect to the people in that series. After a certain point, after 4 or 5 seasons, no one can remember the plot of Game of Thrones at a certain point in time. You remember what happens to the characters. You remember their character arcs. कि season 1 में इसको ये हुआ था, season 2 में उसको वो हुआ था. These are the broad differences in a sense. The perfect merging of this is your Marvel Cinematic Universe, which takes movies, but over a 12-year period had basically taken them and put them into multiple, into almost like a very, very large series that ended up then culminating in, Endgame. But that's broadly where it is. That's it.
Sir, sir, I'm asking as a journalist, also as an aspiring screenplay writer. I'm from Bengal. My name is Pio. Sir, you told about writing series, and I'm just wanting to know the process, because here, if only the episodic breakdowns can differentiate it from the film writing, or you have to think of a character through the seasons, and like when you wrote Jubilee, or when you have adapted Jubilee, or if I am asking about Sacred Games, like it is a novel and it has had a structure. But when you are adapting some original stories, you have to think of a character or narrative through 2 or 3 or 4 seasons you are thinking of, or you are just thinking it as a movie or as a storyline, a larger storyline than a movie. And when you are writing a movie for OTT, like Control, like AK versus AK, then you differentiate it, or you just think it as writing a movie for the big screen or something. Like the writing process somehow differentiates for the movie in OTT platforms, or?
No, of course it's different. It's different because a movie is a movie. It's a 2-hour, 2.5-hour kind of thing that you make, which you can choose your audience based on what you sort of like. You say, okay, this is the kind of thing you'll do for streaming. This is for theatrical. But of course, when it comes to series, you have to be different. It has to be broken down. You have to decide: is it limited? Is it not? Is it further? Is it going to be 4 seasons, 5 seasons, 3 seasons? And then break down your character arcs accordingly. So, like I said in the last thing, the character is the most important thing in a series to understand how your character or your characters are going to be able to.
It was a pleasant surprise to see you in Vikramaditya.
All the people can listen to your
Yes.
questions.